The global decline in biodiversity cannot be halted by efforts in conservation areas alone. To bend the curve of biodiversity loss, more sustainable production and consumption of forest products is necessary. Transitioning to more sustainable activities in this regard requires unraveling the impact of current management practices on biodiversity. Recognizing this, the Forest Paths Project is keen on assessing how forest management styles affect the biosphere.
For the Forest Project, I work on estimating the impacts of forest management on biodiversity. And we want to know whether there are some forest management systems in Europe that are more biodiversity friendly than other management systems. And to do that, I have to do a lot of data analysis on global databases, but also gathering more data for Europe and estimating, basically using this data to estimate the impacts of forest management on biodiversity.
To assess the effects of forest management on biodiversity, the project expanded global biodiversity databases and conducted a European-scale meta-analysis to gather data on biodiversity in different forest management types. The results were used to statistically analyze the effect of 7 different forest management systems on global biodiversity and 4 different management systems at European scale. These systems range from selective cutting to forest plantations.
The results that we got out of the study can be used by policymakers to sort of like identify which type of forest management systems that they would like to introduce in Europe, or that they would like maybe to change one management system into another management system, for example. And what we find is that at a global scale there are actually management systems that are more biodiversity friendly than other management systems. So there it's really clear that that you can shift from one to the other to improve biodiversity, so policymakers could use those results for that.
The effects of forest management on biodiversity will be integrated into spatial models, such as the agent-based model CRAFTY. This will allow for an assessment of how changes in forest management impact biodiversity over space and time.
Yeah, what surprised me was that we didn't find so much differences in the impact of management on biodiversity in Europe, because there are also less intensive management systems in Europe, or at least they are deemed to be less intensive, such as more systems where there's only some trees are cut and the other trees are remaining, for example. So I was expecting to find that the biodiversity would be less affected in those systems than in more intensive systems, such as forest plantations, where all trees are cut and then they are planted again, and that it really disrupts the natural processes. But yeah, we did not find that, so we were a little bit puzzled about that. So more research is actually necessary, I think, to understand why these less intensive systems are also not having a great impact on biodiversity. We use the forest and we plan everything in the forest in such a way that biodiversity is not harmed, but we can still, of course, also extract some woody resources from the forest, some timber, and have other ecosystem services such as recreation, etc. Yeah.